Several children are walking down the center of a residential street which traverses the crest of a hill and looms over the surrounding neighborhood. A view of the San Francisco Bay, enshrouded in a layer of mist, appears in the distance. Chapter 1. The Pair. Two boys from the group are sitting on a large utility vault within a sidewalk easement. The vault is surrounded by lush green grass and wild mustard. The boys are tearing at a loaf of bread, snacking on its soft insides and intermittently feeding a growing flock of pigeons with remnant pieces of crust. Appearing disinterested, one boy motions inquisitively at a book that the other had been holding by his side. Matthew. My mom told me to get her book signed by some important writer who is visiting the neighborhood today. Mateo. Taking the book and flipping through its pages. What is the story about? Matthew. Who knows? Maybe it's about our neighborhood. Mateo. Setting the book down on the vault. Yeah, right. The boys simultaneously look toward a pair of trees which sit at the upper edge of the easement. The camera slowly pans up along the pair of young trees toward the sky. The camera slowly pans down to reveal a pair of mature trees standing proudly and casting expressive shadows on the ground. Jovially, the boys run toward the trees and sit beneath the shade provided by a young evergreen. A view of downtown San Francisco appears in the distance. Mateo, to Matthew. This is my tree. You go sit under the ugly one. Matthew, moving underneath the sparse canopy of a deciduous tree. What's so bad about this one? Plucking a leaf from the tree. They have different leaves, but both have a view of the city, and they look nice together. The boy sits alone underneath the evergreen tree, watching the T pass along 3rd Street at the foot of LeConte. A close-up reveals his friend's book still laying open on the ground, with its pages dancing in the wind. A medium shot shows the boy standing up, picking up the book, shaking his head and dusting off the book's jacket. Chapter 2. The Sapling. The boy, book in hand, appears at the foot of Meade Avenue near the freeway exit to the neighborhood's southeast entrance. Cars are zooming by and the boy wears a forlorn expression on his face. The picturesque naturalness of Bayview Hill Park is apparent further uphill. Registering movement at the top of the lot, the boy walks through an overgrown mass of blackberry bramble and nasturtium. He emerges from the brush to find an elderly man moving soil around with his foot to secure a tree sapling in the earth. Old man. Hey son, looks like something's on your mind. Have you lost someone? Mateo. I'm looking for my friend. He left his book. Old man. I'm sorry, but I haven't seen him. Say, did you know that cherry trees used to grow wild over this hillside? Yes, sir. Even before the shipyard, this land has always been productive. Always will be. A close-up of a naked sapling branch gives way to a full canopy of blossoming trees in motion. Chapter 3. The Stump. At the end of the street, the boy comes upon a large, ambiguous, and trash-strewn space adjacent to a nondescript, unused building. A chain-link fence delineates the rear edge of the space and separates it from a ramp that funnels traffic onto the US 101. Mateo. What is this place? A medium shot shows the boy wiping sweat from his brow. Noticing a gnarled tree stump surrounded by a dense massing of vegetation, he enters the space and makes his way through the growth, ending at the rooted base of the stump. The camera pans up to the sky, then begins to pan at 360 degrees to reveal a lush grove surrounding the boy. The sound of nearby traffic transitions into an ambiance of birdsong and the distant babble of water. The boy sits atop the stump and thumbs half-heartedly through his friend's book. He pulls a long-stemmed wildflower from the earth and inserts it between the pages of the book. Matteo, tracing the rings of the exposed tree stump with his finger. Here is when the cherry trees bloomed. Here is when they were cut down. Here is when I met him, just this afternoon. Soon he'll meet the man without his book. Chapter 4. The Pot. The boy appears at the intersection of 3rd and Jamestown with book in tow. The camera slowly zooms in to show that his attention has been drawn to an assemblage of second-hand garden furnishings that has accrued at the opposite corner of the intersection. A close-up shows a metal object containing an aloe plant among the clutter. The object is not quite a pot in the conventional sense. Rather, it looks like a cross between a sculpture and a hollowed-out vessel for holding things other than plants. As the camera slowly zooms out, 5 enlarged pillars, bearing significance in their materiality and scale, replace what was previously a seemingly random pile of odds and ends. The boy's gaze is interrupted by the onset of traffic speeding across 3rd from Jamestown to access the US 101 ramp. Matteo. Who put this here? A woman, dressed in the clothing of a schoolteacher, who had appeared at the intersection during the boy's daydream, responds. Teacher. People just like you. Why aren't you with the other children who went to meet the writer? Matteo, surprised that he had been speaking aloud. My friend is there, and he left his book. Teacher. That's too bad. The meeting is all the way down 3rd Street, and the event must have finished by now. Chapter 5. The View. A long shot shows the boy walking slowly up a steep residential street similar to the one featured in the opening shot. A view of San Francisco's skyline is visible behind him. A medium shot shows the boy's feet kicking a can up the hill, tracing a path along the street's crown. One final kick sends the can up against a tall granite curb. Abandoning his distraction of kick the can, the boy looks to his left and takes in a panoramic view of the city, which is perfectly framed in the void space between a 2-story residence and the upper slope of Bayview Hill. The camera slowly zooms in to show a patch of invasive grasses, which has established a colony on the lot. Drawn in by the gentle swaying of the grasses in the afternoon breeze, the boy carves a path through the center of the overgrown lot with his tired mass. In the center of the lot, the boy tosses the book down onto a bed of crushed vegetation and begins to walk around it in a circle, creating a more defined clearing with each step. Having reflected on the events of that afternoon's journey and having imagined the many possible trajectories of his friend's encounter with the writer, the boy lets out a great yawn and slowly lowers himself onto the improvisational bed he'd produced. His stretched-out body takes up almost the entire diameter of the clearing. The camera pans from an overhead shot of the ground to a perpendicular shot of the sky overhead, masked by a circular form like an oculus. Staring up at the sky, the boy is transfixed by the variety of the shapes of clouds and of the speed by which they float by. Within a few seconds, he closes his eyes and begins to dream.